I just had a really fun time with my niece. I bought a new lawnmower today. Um, it's been a good day. Nothing is particularly wrong. And yet, there were moments in the day when I had to catch a sob right here. And that happens periodically, not every day, but periodically. There are days, and it doesn't make sense. A lot of people feel this way. We sometimes call it anxiety. We don't like crying in the middle of the day. We can't put our finger on why we're crying. Sometimes there would be a reason. Like today, I could think in my mind a reason why I would feel like crying, but it was not significant, really. Not in the big scope of things. I'm not starving. I have a home. I have family who love me. There was really no reason for this feeling to catch me. And as it turns out, there was this terrorist attack that happened in Nice. And I feel like that a lot of times we take these anxieties and we medicate them. I am very cautious about suggesting people take medication. I'm not opposed to it, especially if a doctor is involved and he's very conservative or she's very conservative about the use of medicines that help with our moods. But I have found that in general, people tend to overuse them because, especially spiritual people, especially people filled with the Holy Ghost, people who attend a congregation that helps stir up the Spirit and teaches us to lean into spiritual things, we get into a church service where we tell God, we surrender everything to God. We tell God, use us for your glory. Let me hear you. Let me be your hands. Let me be your voice. And then we feel this need to cry for no reason. And we don't realize God is calling us to intercession. God is calling us to a place of prayer. He can see what we cannot see. In my lovely day today, when I was laughing with friends and when I was laughing with my niece and silly things were happening, I didn't know that there were people dying. It didn't cross my mind. And that's just the terrorist attack. That doesn't count the thousands and thousands of abortions that happen every single day. That doesn't count the people who are heartbroken and they are losing loved ones to sickness right in their homes or right in hospital beds. There's so much heartache in the world. So we're thinking there's no reason for me to cry in the middle of the day. If you are a person of faith, if we are people of faith, there's a lot of reason for us to cry. Jesus walked over the city of Jerusalem and he cried, and he very purposefully interceded on behalf of that city. We think there's nothing to cry about, but there's much, and not just to cry about. The Lord uses what we know. The Spirit uses what we know. We know emotions, and so whenever we've got something going on and it's a piddly thing in the big scheme of life, it's not really worth, why do I feel like crying about this? This is not significant. Take that emotion to a private place, an office door, close it, a bathroom stall even. Instead of medicating it, take it someplace where you can talk to God about it and see if God is leading you into a vein of intercession and travail. I hope that in these days that we are in that are very troubling, whenever we have no reason to feel like crying, significant reason to feel like crying, and yet we are crying, I hope that we will not mark ourselves off as something's wrong with us. God is calling us to prayer. Women who are at home and have the freedom to hit their knees at any point in the day, of course God's going to call you to prayer. Don't think because you're emotionally distraught that your husband needs to meet that need, or that even friends aren't meeting that need. That's not necessarily your personal loneliness that you're feeling. That's not necessarily your personal heartbreak that you're feeling. That's God calling us. That's God's heartbreak, or God's loneliness, or God's awareness that something is terribly wrong in the world, and we are in a position to intercede and let the Spirit works that we cannot work. I couldn't contact, if I knew something terrible was going to go on, I would have 911 to call, and that would be it. And would they listen to me saying, I feel in the Spirit something might happen? Of course not. But God knows, and God can intervene. When my brother was very young, I wish I could remember the year, I found him. The young people were all loading up to go to a banquet. We had all been very excited, and it was going to be a fun night, and he was excited about it. He's I don't know, he's 13, maybe 14. He was excited about it. And he was just starting to be aware of God calling him to prayer. And we were all loaded up, and we couldn't find Jason. Where's Jason? Where's Jason? And so I started looking for my little brother. I found him in the church all by himself, wailing. And I said, are you okay? Because I'd never seen him like this before. This was new. I asked him if he was okay, and he was embarrassed. He said, I think I'm praying for Russia. And I was like, okay. And that within that 12 to 24 hour time period, that whole government system that was such an iron fist collapsed. Now, I'm sure Jason wasn't the only one praying, but if he had just bypassed that or popped a pill and didn't lean into that prayer, who knows what his prayer did that day. So when we are feeling these emotions that we are not comprehending, don't write them off as just you. It's the Spirit calling us for such a time as this. God bless.